What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the H Panel, the show where I bring on guests from all different backgrounds to talk about all the things mental health. As you can tell, I am very excited because if you can look behind me, I have a new background. I've got a new camera. We're back in business, baby. I pre-record these episodes, so you're not going to see the full background in any of the episodes until episode 8. That being said, it's here. I'm ready. I'm so pumped to have this new set with you guys. I'm really hyped. In other news, what is going on in the world, man? Unless you've been hiding under a rock, you've probably seen that there's something going on in the U.S. where a bunch of people swarmed the Capitol and went in and broke into it and stole some things. And I'm not going to dive too deep into it because you've probably already seen it, and I don't want to promote all this bad news on this channel. But what I will say is that it really does show how much we need each other right now and how important it is to check up on ourselves, because news like this, it can be traumatizing, and it's a lot to handle. So if you do have any spare time today, please take some time off of social media, check in with your loved ones, and really focus on what's important, because I know it can be hard to not go down this rabbit hole of negative media, especially when headlines like that are right at the top, grabbing your attention. Believe me, guys, woke up this morning, I got swarmed into Twitter, and I just fell down that rabbit hole. And I want to just promote the fact that it's okay to log off, just take some time to yourself. You're allowed to do it. So my guest today, I'm really excited to show you guys this episode. His name is Doug Sands. Doug Sands is a professional hypnotist, a fellow podcaster, and an adventurer who helps people from all around the world overcome personal and mental roadblocks, such as fear and mental illness, through the art of hypnosis. He has an amazing story in which he discovered the power of meditation, Buddhism, yoga, and other experiences to help improve our mental game after struggling with his own mental health and realizing that something had to change in his life. Doug was an absolute pleasure to have on, and this conversation really opened my eyes and helped make me realize that hypnosis isn't just a thing of the movies and myth, but it can actually be used to our advantage. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. Please let me know what you think. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment, share with your friends. And if you're listening on podcasts right now, please give 5 stars. Please share the podcast. Let's keep this conversation going. I really appreciate all the support, guys. Without further ado, please enjoy the episode. Shout out to Doug for coming on and having a great discussion with me. I'll see you guys next time.
But at one point, there will be small shifts each time you make the choice to do the new thing.
It wasn't until I really took ownership of making my change, or working with my own mental health, that I started to see the most results.
And when you think of it from that frame of mind, your social anxiety change, it still is there, but the way that you interact with people will change.
Yeah, you know how this is. Being a competitive athlete yourself, you have a hard training session. You leave that session though, yeah, you might be fatigued, you might be tired, might be a little bit sore, but man, you feel good, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Check 1, check 2.
I can hear you. How's it going, Doug?
Hey, it's going great. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. What have you been up to during this pandemic? This pandemic of ours.
Well, starting a podcast for one. Other than that, so my business is completely online, and so it wasn't a complete transition that way. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been working with clients online right now.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I mean, same thing. I'm in school right now. I got a couple courses done. Just had an exam this morning.
Nice.
Been working. Nothing special really. I started this podcast up the day before my school shut down.
Oh wow.
I didn't think we were going to, because back in like early March, Corona was like this little. It was on like Instagram here and there, and it was like, yeah, dude ate a bat, and we're like, oh, whatever. And then, so I filmed a vlog because I was vlogging back then. And I was like, I'm going to take you through a day of me at school. And I went to school, and the entire video was me going to school and then going, oh, my class got canceled because of COVID. And then since then, it's just been downhill. But Yeah, I guess I started during COVID. I don't know if that counts, but I started
Yeah.
right before it hit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So first off, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where are you from again?
I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico right now.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Mhm.
How are things down there? Is it you guys don't get a winter, do you?
Well, kind of, sort of. I was actually living in Salt Lake City, and my girlfriend and I, we moved down here to ski. And a lot of people are like, that's not what you do in New Mexico. But up in the mountains, they get snow. They do it. I mean, like, I'm living down in the valley right now, and everything is melted off. It's still pretty cold out, but the sun is shining. So
Oh, nice, nice.
yeah,
Yeah, that's definitely not what I thought would happen in New Mexico.
yeah,
Going to New Mexico to ski, man, that's a first. I've heard everything now.
you got it.
So my first question for you, because I don't know anything about hypnotism and kind of, well, the areas of research and practice that you do. So, before we get too deep into that, what is your journey with mental health and kind of what inspired you to get into this art of hypnotism?
Oh gosh, it was a very roundabout journey. Let's put it that way.
Mm,
I started on this path because I had my own mental health issues. I grew up with this constant struggle of low level anxiety, which developed into depression and full blown anxiety. And I was on meds and therapy, and those really helped me. But it wasn't until I really took ownership of making my change, or working with my own mental health, that I started to see the most results. And that actually came because I got lost on a hike in New Hampshire, and I almost froze to death.
mm,
And it was that really brutal turning point that showed me I couldn't live life the way I was living it anymore. And so I found actually meditation through searching through things to calm my own anxiety. And a lot of people don't realize there's a very strong link between meditation and hypnosis. And so I discovered hypnosis just by listening to meditation podcasts. And when I found out just what it could do and what I could do with just the rudimentary tools that I had at first, I was hooked. And so I got certified, and now I've just been helping people with the same issues that I used to struggle with.
man, that's awesome. Yeah, no, so you had like a huge epiphany, almost freezing to where was that, by the way?
That was in New Hampshire, kind of a famous hike, the Lafayette Ridge, if you ever heard of it.
I have not, but definitely gonna put it on my bucket list. Maybe not the freezing to death part, but
Yeah.
the hiking part definitely. Yeah, man, that's so awesome. So what kind of makes hypnosis so much more effective than other methods of mindfulness and stress relief, in your opinion, anyway?
I think that hypnosis has the same benefits as meditation because you're still getting to that same deep state within yourself.
Yeah.
But unlike meditation, you've got a very specific goal that you're aiming for. And when you're in that meditative state, if you're just doing it solo or with like a guided meditation, you can be relaxed and you can kind of connect with yourself. But when you apply the psychology and the neuroscience behind hypnosis, that just makes it so much more effective. And so I break it down. Hypnosis is two parts when you're doing it for change work. It's the actual hypnosis of putting someone in that deep state where they can access those resources. And then it's also the psychology side of it. And you compare those two. I mean, meditation and hypnosis are very similar.
Mhm.
And I would say that meditation, or I should say hypnosis, is just taking that meditation and applying the neuroscience and the psychology into it to really focus in on that change.
Oh, so it's like an all-around kind of meditation then.
Mm-hmm.
All the factors in. Nice. So my next question, I get, what are the multiple benefits towards hypnotism and the practice of hypnosis? Because on your website, you've mentioned you can use it for mental health, you can use it for self-improvement, you can use it for weight loss, which I kind of want to get into there because I could probably use that. So what are these multiple benefits that you can achieve through hypnosis?
Oh gosh, you can. When someone asks me that, I say the opportunities are endless.
Mm,
Not because you can fix everything with hypnosis, but you can change your motivations and your skills to then be better at whatever it is you want to do. Whether that's, I don't know, skydiving or losing weight or ending stuttering or, I don't know, irritable bowel syndrome, something anything that you can consciously decide to try to improve, you can use that with hypnosis to speed up the process. And so I specialize in anxiety relief. And I also do weight loss hypnosis, which a lot of people think is just, you wave the magic hypnosis wand and someone loses 50 pounds.
Yeah.
But it's not that. And it's a great example because you are essentially changing the beliefs and the habits and the motivations behind the weight loss journey. And by doing that, you're speeding up their process. So in hypnosis, we change who they are at the identity level, and then their body just catches up, slowly losing those pounds as it normally would.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I heard, I forget who it was. I really got to start remembering names of people, but I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about how they use meditation and they use like hypnosis to kind of, they can, when doing these techniques, they can almost reconstruct the inside of a person, like the person, like not only their soul, of course, and their way of thinking, but also like their biological composition at sometimes if it's really intense. How does that work?
The body is, or the mind, I should say, the mind and body are incredibly powerful at changing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We know this through neuroplasticity. We also know that every single time you access a memory, you are changing it. And that's at the physical level. You are actually changing the protein called kinase C every single time you change that memory. And so your brain is literally restructuring itself all the time. And hypnosis, we just do that intentionally. And as you say it, you can use hypnosis to change physical things about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Hypnosis is actually a proven treatment modality for cancer. It's proven by the National Cancer Institute. And how that works, you are basically targeting your white blood cells and targeting those things to focus on the cancer cells as opposed to the rest of your healthy body. And so you're communicating with your unconscious and essentially giving it direction in a way that it can understand.
So that's so interesting. Why is that not more common knowledge? Like you said, like cancer, sorry, what was the website?
The National Cancer Institute.
Yeah, sorry, the National Cancer Institute. You said that they actually have hypnosis as like a method. So why is that not more common knowledge with the general public?
I think it's because of stage shows. And I don't want to put, comedy hypnosis, throw it under the bus or anything like that, because looking at the history of hypnosis, we wouldn't have hypnosis as a change work if it wasn't for the comedy side of it. Because, in the lean years when people were kind of attacking it and, studying it and breaking it down, the comedy side was what kept it in the focus of, of society. It kept it alive. But you also have that issue of the misconceptions. People think hypnosis is mind control. They think you're either going to hypnotize them to bark like a dog, or like Cold War, you're going to turn them into a trained assassin or something.
Right.
And it's not that at all. The scientists who I know who study hypnosis are just all about it. And whenever I work with a new client, I always have to overcome that initial hurdle. And once I do, people are just fascinated. They're ravenous for more information. I think that we still have this huge stigma over mental health, or not mental health, hypnosis, because of those things that have lodged so clearly in our society's, zeitgeist. And I think it's very interesting how meditation has kind of skyrocketed in recent years and hypnosis has not. I'm kind of hopeful that hypnosis in the coming decades is really going to explode, because it's growing in popularity. Over in Europe, it's very popular for treating all kinds of things, and it's pretty much mainstream there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the last year. I don't know if it's because I was looking for it, but hypnosis has definitely been talked about more. And like you said, like I was actually just going to mention that, like there is a stigma around hypnosis, because whenever like I'll be talking to a friend or something, or I'll talk to a family member and I say, like, hypnosis is a method for mental health and like to self-improve, they always go, what? Because I think the general idea of like the practices you guys are doing is like you're going to take over that person's mind, like you said, and make them bark like a dog, or just completely like destroy their mentality and just turn it to nothing, or
Yes.
it's just a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully, because it sounds interesting and it seems to be effective.
Yeah, those are the two arguments I run into a lot. Either it's, as you say, complete bull, or it's just, a placebo effect,
Mm.
and that it might be mind control. To go with the first one, it's been studied for over 130 years by major science groups, from the British Medical Association to the American Medical Association to the National Cancer Institute, as we said. It's been proved by the American Psychological Association. And this isn't just a placebo effect. I mean, yes, of course, you're getting some of that, but you get the same thing when you take like ibuprofen for a headache.
Right.
Hypnosis it's proven. I mean, it's proven by science, and we've studied the brainwave patterns, and we've studied the actual long-term results of it. And these studies aren't really well known, but hypnosis in many cases is actually more effective than the treatments like cognitive behavioral therapy for doing work with mental health.
Hmm.
And the other side of the coin, hypnosis is mind control. Hypnosis is simply communicating with someone's unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind has two goals: one, to keep you safe, and two, to keep you happy. And if at any time you violate either of those goals, it will just bring you out of trance because you've broken that trust with that person. This comes, the unconscious mind comes from that lizard part of your brain, that fight or flight instinct.
Hmm.
It's basically an extension of that. That is the foundation for it. And a friend of mine, a hypnotist, informal study, they had 5 different volunteers, and they put them in hypnosis, and they gave them different suggestions, 4 positive and 1 negative, something, kind of mild, like, you'll give me $5 or something after the session. Without fail, every single time that person heard that negative suggestion, they were brought out of trance because their unconscious mind no longer trusted the hypnotist. And when people look at a stage show and they're like, well, they're being manipulated, of course they're not. When a person agrees to go on that stage, they know they're going to probably do some ridiculous things.
Right.
Hypnosis is, in that case, just about lowering their inhibitions and making them feel safe enough to act in ridiculous ways.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. So can you mind control them?
No.
No, it's not.
No. Unless someone wanted to be mind controlled, but then it wouldn't be mind control because they chose it. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man, so that's just for the movies then.
that's just for the movies. I was watching Get Out not long ago, and like, you could see the foundation in like the science of hypnosis, but it just played off the same stereotypes. And so
It's probably comforting for people listening who are thinking about doing it. Don't worry, guys. They're not going to control you.
absolutely.
So when you get these patients and you do the methods of hypnosis with them and the processes, is there like something in the brain that unlocks and stays unlocked, or do you have to keep working at it to achieve mindfulness and like self-improvement?
That brings up the idea of the critical faculty. And that's a part of our mind that's evolved to disseminate information, or to like break it down and judge whether it was good or not for us. You can see this because children like age 0 to 4 or something, they don't have this, they don't develop this yet. And so you tell them like there's a purple dragon out in the hallway, they're going to believe you and they're going to run out. When you're like 10 years old, that's not the case because your critical faculty says, no, that's dumb. But when you're in hypnosis, the critical faculty becomes more open, more permissible. It's kind of like a guard standing in front of your mind. And so that's not to say anything will slip past, because the guard is still there. He's still making sure that you're safe. But those beneficial suggestions can go through that passageway, that guard of the critical faculty, to reach that unconscious level much more easily. And to give an example, if I told you on the street a beneficial suggestion like you'll have an awesome life and you're going to achieve everything you want to, that might be nice to hear. But when you're in hypnosis, your unconscious mind can actually accept that and believe it at a deep level. And so after hypnosis, it does close back up. and so you're back to normal wakefulness. It's not like you're completely suggestible, you're just broken for the rest of time. um, on the question of mindfulness, I actually, having started with meditation, I have worked with hypnosis on mindfulness with myself and with others, and it's definitely taken me deeper into meditation, and I think it's taken some time off of my own progression. I feel much more calm during meditation, and I think the crossovers, not only working on it directly, but the crossovers of practicing that mental muscle of hypnosis, it's the same muscle that you use in meditation.
Yeah, nice. So I have this problem when I meditate because I love meditation as well. But my mind goes like a million miles a second,
Yeah.
and so it's really hard for me to like calm down and really zone in on the meditation, especially when someone's talking, because
Mhm.
I'll be focusing on their voice, like, oh, they sound weird, or they
Yeah.
sound they're annoying, like all these things. So how could I be able to like shut that part of the brain off and just sit down and accept this meditation with open arms?
Mm. It's all about the focus, and that's what meditation and hypnosis, that's really all it is. You focus on something to the exclusion of all else. I would say in that case, hypnosis, to really shut off that monkey mind, that chatter of constant thoughts, that's what really helped me in my case. It really helped me get in the zone. um, I would say if you're looking for like an actionable tip, I would look at some breath work and
Mhm.
just look at some work on the vagus nerve. A lot of research has been done on that, and that's where I would start.
What's the vagus nerve?
The vagus nerve. It's a nerve that runs from your brain to your chest, and it controls your heart, your lungs, and I think a few other things. Um, but it's that nerve that your brain sends the fight or flight signal down.
Mm.
And so when you panic, it sends that signal down to the heart to speed up and your lungs to breathe faster. But by breathing more deeply and slowly, you can basically send a signal back up the pipeline to the brain and say, hey, your body says it's all right to be calm, so you can feel calm as well. And one of the easiest ways to do this is 7-11 breathing. And it goes by many names like 4-7-8 breathing, and other things. But the whole concept is you breathe out for longer than you breathe in. And so in that example, you breathe in for 7 and breathe out for a count of 11. And what that does, it just signals your body that it's all right to be calm, and it's all right to just let your mind be at peace in that moment.
Right. Yeah, no, I'll definitely keep that in the back pocket. Breathing is so underrated. And
Mm.
I've realized that throughout the years because I just retired from competitive swimming. And I would get so anxious behind the blocks, and like there would be points where it would affect my race so negatively because my head was completely out of it. And no matter how physically able or physically prepared I was for this race, didn't matter. And then I started, taking deeper breaths and like
Mhm.
focusing on my breathing, and it calmed me down all the way. And then the
Yeah.
same when like I would have like a mental episode or like an angry outburst, the breathing really helped. And I try to tell people that because when people go, like, what can I do when I'm freaking out or when my mind's going like everywhere all at
Mhm.
once? I say, just breathe. They're like,
Yeah.
so stupid because they're breathing all the time, but they like it. Yeah, it's just a concept that like once you get it, it's like
Yeah.
it's so beneficial.
It's so foundational, and you're right. It's just so amazing how that works. Like it's with us all the time. And when I'm working with someone with anxiety, those are the tools that I give them. Tools like 7-11 breathing and other tools from hypnosis and all other areas, things that they can use in between the sessions if they have panic that rises again. And 7-11 breathing, that's the first one. And the other techniques, a lot of them do work on that same vagus nerve idea.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue actually, because my next question for you was like, uh, what are some of the tools that you give your clients?
Yeah. So I've compiled most of the tools that I give my clients. I call it the 7-day stress-free challenge. And I did a video series and I put it on my website essentially. But we already went through 7-11 breathing. I'd say the next one I usually teach people is one called peripheral vision. And I can walk through it if you'd like.
Yeah, yes, please.
Yeah. So to do this one, takes a minute or so. The first thing you always do in these techniques is rate your negative emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. Usually it's anxiety or something like that. You say how bad it feels, I don't know, like a 7 or something. And then to start this, you find a point, usually off in the distance, that you can focus your eyes on. And when you've got that, it helps if it's above eye level, because when you're looking above eye level, you're actually shifting your brain into that daydreaming state, that alpha brainwave.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that might be why people talk about third eye in yoga in that meditative state, but that's a story for another day. When you got that point, focus on it and lock your eyes on it. And without moving your eyes, begin to notice what's on the periphery of your vision. Begin to notice if you can see colors or details or shapes. Notice how much you can notice without moving your eyes. Notice if there's a definite edge to your vision or if it's fuzzy. And the more you just expand your vision and open it, the more your body naturally starts to calm down. You're basically tricking your body into doing that deep breathing that we do in 7-Eleven breathing. You're getting out of your own way because your mind is going into that alpha state, that light trance, by looking above eye level. And your body is doing that deep breathing and you're getting all those results. So that's peripheral vision.
Very nice.
And one of the
already.
That absolutely. I really like that one because you can do it literally anywhere. I've done it, on a train or like right before a presentation. It's just so easy. And it takes advantage of that natural tendency to zone out. And a lot of people don't realize that zoning out is the same kind of feeling as hypnosis or meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on a deeper scale in that situation. And the other technique I really love to share with people comes from a hypnotist out of New York City. Her name is Melissa Tiers. She's pretty famous in the community. This one is called peripheral vision, or not peripheral vision. This one's called, what's it called? I just lost it. I'm going to think of it in a second, but let's explain it first.
Yeah.
First, you take an object. It could be a wallet. It could be a ball. Anything that you can pass from hand to hand. And as always, you rate your negative emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. And this allows us to check back afterwards to see just how much it's actually gone down. You take that object and you begin passing it from hand to hand, crossing the center line of your body. And each time you pass it from hand to hand, you are crossing that center line. You are activating both hemispheres of your brain. And that cross communication through the corpus callosum, it allows your brain to self-regulate and to calm itself. And so you do that for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then you check in. How far down that scale has your anxiety gone? And with all of these techniques, I always recommend making sure you take it all the way to 0. Because if you take it from like a 7 down to a 2, that's great, but you're teaching your brain that it's all right to have a little bit of underlying anxiety left. Take it all the way to 0 and just completely remove it. And you're showing your brain it's all right to be completely calm. You're telling your brain it's okay to build this new habit of calm.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure a lot of viewers have too. I definitely have done that where you'll do like a mindfulness technique and you'll go, well, I'm better than I was. So that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I'm guilty of it as well.
Yeah.
When I'm in a rush, I'm like, I just need a little something, but it really helps to take it all the way to 0.
These things seem so they're so easy, and like you said, they're so portable. You can bring them wherever. These are such great tools for people. This is why I wanted to ask you, because I feel like there's this idea that not just hypnosis, but like mental health improvement techniques and just mental health betterment requires like you to get out of your house and go to an office, like, or not an office, like, a therapist's office, I guess. I can't think of a better word there, but like a therapist's office or like a hypnosis place, when in reality, like even with the pandemic, you can keep these exercises going.
Yeah. I was amazed in my own journey just how much I had control over my own emotional states. And here in the West, we don't really talk about that. The only methods that we have for dealing with severe mental health are, the standard medication and therapy. And those work. Those are great, and they're still around because they work for, I should say, some of the population some of the time. But especially in times like these when we can't go out and meet those people, we need to have some way to regulate our own emotions. And over in the East, in China and Japan and other places, these techniques are pretty, they're common. They're part of the local, or they're not the zeitgeist of the time of their society.
Mhm.
This is something they all believe in. This is something they've really accepted. I think that as we're going and really opening up with what our minds are able to do, it's going to become more accepted. But I do think, as we talked about, there's that stigma, and it's something that we really need to get over, essentially, because mental health is something we all can benefit from. It's not just, the severe lows. It's also just managing from day to day and the normal ups and downs. You can use these same techniques, whether you're, broken. I use those in quotation marks, but broken or just a normal everyday person.
Yeah, no, there's definitely that idea that people will hear these techniques and go, I'm not crazy enough to use that.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm not, like you said, quote unquote, broken enough
Mhm.
to use that. When in reality, like, you can use it whenever. And those daily, like, little stressors, if you don't, pay attention to them or really like grab them by the
Yeah.
hand, they might go out of control. So everyone benefits.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Going back to you were talking about how the Asian cultures have really accepted this hypnotism, um, and then you mentioned that you also study Buddhism,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
know I don't want to say I know because I don't,
Yeah.
but I believe Buddhism is a big religion over there. It's like one of the bigger religions that's
Mhm.
practiced. So, what exactly is the culture of Buddhism, and how can studying and practicing this culture be beneficial as
Mm.
well?
I was fascinated when I first learned about Buddhism. So I grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up on a dairy farm in a very Christian family. And it wasn't until I had that hike that I was really open enough to explore those Eastern traditions. And when I did, I fell in love. They say that Buddhism was the original psychology because, the Buddha and his, people who studied with him, they were espousing psychological techniques that hadn't been invented yet. And they were doing these things that modern psychology has now backed up. 2,500 years before we had the studies to really research it. And I think that's part of why I really loved it. But another part of why I loved it was you can have Buddhism without this religious belief. Buddhism is at its core a practice, and a lot of people will take Buddhism and puts a deity to it, especially over in the East where it originated. But over in the West, here in the US and other places, secular Buddhism has become very popular, where you're taking the ideas from Buddhism without this core God, essentially.
Hmm.
But one of the core ideas of Buddhism is about learning yourself and about questioning things that don't seem right in your life. And what I loved so much originally was that one of the first things I learned was that Buddhist teachers tell their students not to take everything they say at face value
Hmm.
and to really question and apply their own teachings in their own life. And when a teacher is so confident in their abilities that they're like, test this out. Don't just like accept what I'm saying as dogma. That really showed me a level of confidence that I wanted to know more, and I was just fascinated in it.
That's so important because I feel like we don't have that over here as much, where
Mhm.
teachers will teach you something and then go, try it out if you want.
Yeah,
It's more like, this is how it's done.
exactly, exactly.
That's awesome. When I was a kid, I used to get angry a lot, and I looked up practices and like religions I could follow to calm myself down because I
Yeah,
was so desperate. And I was like, you know what? I'm a Buddhist now. And my family would just make fun of me because I would like be sitting in my room humming to like some iTunes playlist. So I don't think I quite got it, but it seems so interesting, and it seems like it's been called one like a, such a peaceful practice and religion. It's so fascinating to me.
Mm, yeah. And it's at its core, it's all about meditation. all about knowing yourself by studying yourself, essentially, by sitting in that quiet place with your own mind and letting yourself be open to that. And for a lot of us here in the West, we are in this really fast paced culture where we stuff our emotions down with, I don't know, TV or food or drink or sex or whatever it is that we use as a coping mechanism. And so when a Westerner is first getting started in meditation, that all comes up. And so that's why a lot of people will start it and then just abandon it because they're afraid. Especially, in my case, I had that same thing.
Mhm.
I would sit down and all these anxieties and mental health issues would rush to the surface because there's no distraction to keep you from it. And to anyone who's just starting out or looking at meditation, I would say be willing to be courageous enough to open yourself up to that opportunity to sit with yourself and really know who you are at that core level.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think it'll be a more accepted practice in the near future with the rising of hypnosis as well?
Are we talking Buddhism or hypnosis?
Buddhism, sorry.
I think it will. Hypnosis, or not saying Buddhism, is very popular in California. I mean, they accept a lot of things out there, but I see it spreading across the United States slowly and steadily because you've got Dan Harris, the New York Times, or not the New York Times, Good Morning America. He's this front man of the New York scene. He's now got a meditation app because, it kind of saved his own life. And it's not just the hippies and the new age people in California who are really adopting this. It's the business people in Silicon Valley. It's the high ranking CEOs who are bringing this to their entire companies. Like I think it's already going mainstream because the movers and shakers have already accepted this.
Yeah, I love that. So the stigma of like it's all the hippies from the 70s with the long hair and the weed, that's slowly deteriorating then?
Yeah, it's
That's
definitely deteriorating.
that's good. Because I like when I would tell people like I'm gonna meditate, they're like, "What are you gonna like grow your hair into braids now?" I'm like, "What? No, like
Yeah.
what are you talking about?" Um, so I wanted to get a little deeper, kind of moving on here,
Mhm.
into the other tools and techniques that you've embraced and mentioned.
Mhm.
So the one I did not know was neuro-linguistic programming. Like, I've
Yeah.
never heard of that before. So what is it, and how can we use that to our benefit?
Neuro-linguistic programming is a treatment modality and like a confidence kind of builder that it stemmed from hypnosis. So after I want to say like the 1940s, 1950s, these two researchers named Bandler and Grinder out in California started studying hypnotists and therapists to really break down a treatment modality out of all their different ideas. And what they boiled down became NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. And so it's got a lot of connections to hypnosis, but it isn't quite hypnosis.
Hmm.
And if you've ever heard of Tony Robbins, the guru, he has brought this to the business world and it has just exploded. And so NLP concepts are actually much more common than a lot of us realize. But to give you an idea of what NLP is, it's all, you're not closing your eyes and going into a deep trance. You're doing this with your eyes open and you're basically talking through someone's experience. And so if someone came to me to do work with NLP, let's just give an example. Let's say they had a negative memory. Let's say they were bitten by a dog as a kid. We would take that memory and I'd have them remember it. And then we'd look at the modalities or the building blocks of that memory. Looking at it in your mind, is it bright? Is it dark? Is it close up? Is it far away? And by changing those modalities, you can really rewire how your brain works because your brain structures all of your memories holographically. And when you replay a memory, you are literally playing a movie in your mind. And so, as with the vagus nerve, reversing the pipeline, when you change that movie, you change how it's structured in your brain, and you're actually changing, how your body remembers that memory. And if it's a foundational memory, like in that case, working with something at such a young age, every single coping mechanism that was built on that, it starts to shift as well. And so when you do something at that core level, it really ripples out and has some amazing effects.
So it's kind of like what we mentioned before, where you can change your whole physical composition using this practice.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
crazy, man. That's wow. Yeah, no, that's insane. Not in a good way. I don't
Yeah.
want to say that's insane, like that's crazy. No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so how has your view actually no, before I ask that, I had another question. I gotta think about it. Sorry.
Mm.
What was it? I do this all the time. It doesn't matter. So how has your view of the world changed after developing all these skills and embracing these practices?
It showed me just how much control I have over my own life. Because before all of this, I kind of thought life was something that happened to me. I was, sitting in the back seat of my own life. I would, complain and have this victim mindset. And when I realized first just how easy it was to control my emotions, that showed me, what else can I control in my own life? And that allowed me to step into the leadership role of my life. And that's really what I'm all about, at the core level, because hypnosis, as I said, it's not me changing people. It's me getting people to that state and giving them tools and helping them make the change themselves.
Mhm.
Unless a person is ready to make that change, the change doesn't happen. It's not like something I can force upon them. So when they realize what they can change with themselves, without a therapist or without medication, it's just amazing because they realize what else they can control in their lives. For an example, one of my instructors saw this woman who was smoking for 30 years, and once she realized that she could quit smoking, she started on her own just examining what else she could fix. She started cleaning out her house. She was a hoarder at the time.
Mm.
And she dumped her husband, who was not very good for her. And she started cleaning up her life and her health. And she completely turned her life around because she realized that she could do it. And that's really the empowerment that I really want to leave people with.
I feel like that's so forgotten all the time.
Mhm.
These people, they get into these situations, not all of them obviously, but they get into these situations like you said, where you're smoking or you have a bad relationship or you're a hoarder, and they just kind of give up.
Yeah.
And they say, well, that's the universe just being mean to me. And they,
Mhm.
they forget that, you can grab it and take it into your own hands and fix it.
Yes.
That's a great
Absolutely.
lesson.
At the core level, you have control over every single situation that that we experience. And not to say like you can change every situation. Like you can't just change a global pandemic by thinking happy thoughts about it,
Right, of course.
but you can change your reaction to it. And that's powerful because all our communications are a loop. Let's say, for example, a man and a woman are having an argument or something. If one of them starts forgiving, the other person notices that and the loop starts to spiral upwards. And you can have it the other way. If a person goes really dirty and starts fighting dirty, that feedback loop quickly turns very negative. But when you're facing a situation that you don't like, you can change that situation by changing how you react to it.
Hmm.
And the situation then responds to that, especially if you're working with other people, because people can read the basic signals you're sending out with body language very easily. Um, and so I really want to show people through everything that I do that even no matter what you do, you should always feel a little bit of empowerment because you can control some aspect of it, even if it's only your outlook, your attitude on it. Because even a happy attitude, even an optimistic attitude, that can change so much in your life.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like especially now, like you mentioned, it's so important to like yes, we can't positively think our way out of a pandemic, but we can
Mhm.
definitely positively think our way out of this like state of down that we're in
Yes.
about the pandemic.
Mhm.
Especially with, and I say this all the time, is like with the media, you go on your phone and every other post is about like COVID
Mm,
cases and COVID deaths and
yeah.
all this negativity. It's hard to
Mhm.
sit down and get into that positive state, but you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a note on that, when you see something, especially repeated, when you see something over and over again, your mind starts to accept it's true. That's the that was one of the first learnings of hypnosis, that if you repeat something enough, people start to believe it. And so that's what's really dangerous about this news cycle that is constantly feeding us negative information, whether it's the standard news or it's our social media. When we see these negative things, our minds are literally trained to start looking for those negative things.
Mm.
And so we start seeing them in other places. They call that the reticular activating system. Reticular, like your eyes. Um, your brain literally starts looking for things because your brain says, well, this is what you're focusing on now. Like, I can help you and find other things to focus on.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea behind positive psychology. When you focus on positive things, on empowerment and your ability to change things, you start realizing, without even changing anything, you start seeing new opportunities because your brain is now looking for them.
Hmm. It's so simple
Yeah.
and yet so powerful. It's so funny. It's such an unfortunate irony that you're looking for negative stuff and your brain goes, "Oh, I can help you." And it's
Yeah.
like trying to help you go in the right direction. You're going completely backwards.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah,
With
no.
that,
No, go for it.
with that idea of the unconscious mind, your mind is always on your side.
Mhm.
And that's a big thing for people with mental health to hear, because we think of the mind as the enemy that is making me depressed or anxious. But your mind is only running those programs because it believes it will help you. The mind it learns very rapidly, sometimes in a single instance. Like if at one point in your childhood you learned that the world was unsafe for some traumatic reason, your brain is going to hold on to that mechanism because at its core it wants to keep you alive. And even though it's not the best coping mechanism, it's still going to use that because it worked once. It's got a proven record. And so that's essentially what we're fixing with hypnosis. We are changing those coping mechanisms that have become worse than the initial event. And by changing that initial event and giving them new resources to cope, the entire house of cards starts to fall.
Amazing. Yeah, no. It's like a domino effect.
Absolutely.
So I hope my viewers took that into account, that the brain is always on your side because, like you said, for people with mental health issues, like I definitely don't feel that way sometimes, and I definitely never felt that way sometimes. So
Yeah.
nice to hear.
Mhm.
So wha- okay. So my next question is kind of a big one that I talk to the guests, or I ask the guests for this season. Um, So with the pandemic, there's been multiple reports, no surprise here, but that mental illness cases have increased or at least have been reported more.
Mm.
Substance abuse cases have increased, domestic abuse has increased. So there's a large portion of this that can be linked tightly to not only what we said, like the media pumping out negative information, but also the huge amount of job loss,
Mm.
personal loss, growing uncertainty. So where do we go from here as a general public? Like, how do we stop these numbers from rising and get back on track?
Mm. The first one is to realize that mental health is something that we all deal with. We have this idea of mental health as, you're either perfectly fine or you are suicidal. And there's such a gray area in between. And really, that gray area is where we all fall. Some of us are doing excellent, and some of us are doing not all right at certain times in our life. I would say the first step is to break down that stigma and say that it's okay to work on our own mental health, to take care of ourselves, and to not push ourselves like machines. And the next step, I would say, is people need to find something that works for them, something that helps them control their own emotions, whether that's deep breathing or meditation or hypnosis or NLP. Whatever it is, even if it's just taking a daily walk and enjoying the scenery, take that time for yourself, because when your brain is healthy and when your brain is happy, the rest falls into place. And your brain, it's a foundation of every single thing you do. If you're not healthy up here, your entire life is going to slowly or rapidly devolve into shambles. I would say to them that we have so much opportunity to grow from this pandemic. And one of the core ideas of Buddhism is gratitude. And from looking at psychology, we know that it's not grateful people it's not joyful people who feel gratitude. It's grateful people who feel joy. Because the gratitude comes first. When you can feel grateful for something, even if it's negative, then you can start to see the positives in it. You can start to have that positive shift, and your mind starts looking for more positives. When you're thankful for even something as drastic as losing a job, losing anything in your life, that can take you off that victim mindset and say, hey, there might actually be something good coming out of this. For an example, in my own life, I was working at a ski lodge this past winter when COVID hit, and within 6 days, I had lost both my home and my job. And I was homeless for a while. I mean, I had a camper setup built in the back of my truck, and I was living out of that for a little while, just trying to find a house to live in.
Wow.
And at the time, it was very scary, and I could have gone down an extremely negative route. But I had to remind myself daily to have some gratitude. And I think that's what got me through. Because in the long run, there were a lot of positive things that came out of it. For one, I feel much more confident in my own ability to survive. I feel much more confident in my ability to make it through difficult situations. And in my personal relationship life, I'd been dating this girl for about 3 weeks before we lost our jobs at the ski lodge. And instead of moving apart back to our homes and probably never seeing each other again, we decided to try 2 weeks in the back of my truck, touring around the desert out here in Utah and New Mexico. And that, we could have looked at it two ways. We could have said, we are now homeless and we are living out of a vehicle. Mm-hmm. And what on earth is going to happen to us? I've known you for how long? And we chose to look at it the other way. We looked at it with that lens of gratitude and said, we had this opportunity to really learn from each other. And I think that I'm thankful for those 2 weeks because they laid such a steady foundation for our relationship. And even now when things are blowing up again with COVID, I've still got that bedrock foundation to work off of.
Right. Yeah. It's all about making that foundation. Man, are you still with the partner you were with during that?
I am. Yes, we are in New Mexico now, and things are great. Yeah.
So she spent all that time at the back of your truck after 3 weeks of knowing you? Man. She's a keeper.
It's been a wild ride. Yeah.
You're still there? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's definitely a great message that I want the viewers to hear is like, It starts with you. Like you can let the media and the outcomes dictate your life, or you could take a step back and start to build that foundation. Mm-hmm. And that kind of brings me to my last question for you, Doug, is what would you want to say to people who may be feeling anxious or stressed about the fact that they may have not done anything, quote unquote, quotation marks here, significant during these last 8, almost 9 months? Because when like the beginning of this pandemic happened, you would see all these people go, now it's time to take control of your life. You have to go out there and be like super ripped and get like money and do all these things, like take advantage of it. And some people just didn't, which in my opinion is completely fine. Like people were just in this state of shock almost, or like it was traumatic at the beginning to have everything taken away and like this uncertainty hit us. So they kind of just found themselves in this loop, and maybe now they're starting to come out of it and realize, shit, I've done, well, in my opinion, I've done nothing. So how can they feel less anxious about that and then get back on the right track like we've mentioned before?
I would bring up this concept from Buddhism and say that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. And when your mental health deteriorates in something that's that dramatic, you have to take time to heal it. It's the same thing if you broke your foot and you said, all right, I'm just going to have to walk faster now to keep up with everyone. Your foot is rapidly going to deteriorate. And if you try to push yourself with, I won't say broken mind, but with issues in your mental health, you're going to eventually create a much worse problem in the long run. So for anyone who really struggled with this, 2020 and this entire situation, I would say first have some forgiveness for yourself, because none of us is perfect. And we're all trying to live up to that example in our society. I know I am, of trying to be this hyper productive business person and like contributing to society and like someone you can be proud of. What it really comes down to in Buddhism is that you can already be proud of yourself. You've already come through so much, and you already have all the necessary tools to be happy and be content in your life. If someone is looking for a little bit of help, I do have some free resources. I've got what I call free hypnosis Fridays, where I give out free hypnosis sessions on my Instagram every Friday. I've also got that 7-day stress-free challenge that I mentioned. I would really encourage people to check those out, because those are the same techniques I'm using in my own sessions with clients. And if someone really just wants to take it their own path, I would say just have an open mind. Have an open mind to explore what makes you curious. Because when you forgive yourself and you have that space to really own your experience and take ownership of your life, the opportunities are endless. I mean, find something that lights you up and follow it until things start to seem better again. That was what I did. I found meditation, and when everything else in my life was just turning to crap, I focused on that so much, and it was that rope that I pulled myself out of the mud with.
I love that. Yeah. Where can my viewers find you?
Absolutely. My website is anywherehypnosis.com. My Instagram with those free hypnosis sessions I mentioned. My handle is @makingyourmeaning. And I call it that because I'm also the host of the Making Meaning podcast. That's where I interview adventurous people who have taken ownership of their life, and learn their story. Because when I started, I was in the same boat as many people. Like, I thought I'm never going to get there because there's this huge chasm to cross. But when I talk to those people, I realize they're still working through their own issues. And it's only that step-by-step walking down the path that they got to their place. I mean, they're really only ahead of me simply because they started sooner.
Right. Yeah. That's something people need to understand. It's like all the people who seem like they've got it all figured out are still figuring it out.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a great point. And I'll put all those links down below. Doug, this was really fun. Thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And to all my viewers, I will see you guys next time. Hey guys, thank you for watching another episode of my show. I really appreciate you guys. For more episodes, please click this little tab button if you're on YouTube. It's going to be all the episodes. If you want to subscribe, it's right down below. If you're on podcast platforms listening, please subscribe, give 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Let's keep this conversation going. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.